And before you know it, we are there. It's VGC, the video game podcast, with me, Jordan Middler, and Pete Donaldson. This week, we know who Emio is, and it's not coming home. But first, how we doing, Pete?
I had to get that in. Didn't you? For crying out loud.
Oh, mate. When this all happened on Sunday, I was in London seeing Stray Kids, who I'll talk about in a minute. They put on an absolutely incredible show. But at the start of the show, the guy was like, "It's a special day to be here in England. We're big football fans. So good luck, England, against Spain." And then at the end of the gig, they were like, "So does anyone know the score?" And someone shouted out 2-1, and they went, "Never mind. Anyway, here's our last song."
I think everyone in that it was the old wireless festival, wasn't it?
It was BST, the Hyde Park
BST.
one, yeah.
Sorry, what they used to call wireless. I'm very old school. I remember sort of the first couple of years of that festival. I used to have to go down and basically wait by the gates the day before it opened for random people to come round and pick up tickets, because I was dressed as like a gorilla and stuff. In the hot summer heat, I was dressed as a gorilla.
Good.
Giving out tickets to the wireless festival when nobody really gave a toss about it.
I mean, it was weird because we got like certain bands, like wristbands, to go into like the Volvic lounge relax area, and it's like, what is so relaxing about this other than the fact that you're paying £8 for quite a warm cider?
Oh, there are so many tiers of fancy schmancy areas in the wireless festival. I mean, when it first started, it was like 2, I think, and now there's about 5 different tiers, and even like places where you can stand in actually Hyde Park. And what was the sound like? Because I always complain about I never want to watch anything at Hyde Park because the sound's always horrific.
Yeah, so we were in the frontmost kind of pen because like I worked some magic and told some lies and got us in there, and it was like festival sound. It was okay. They have quite a, like, these guys are effectively a boy band. Like their mics are on. You can tell their mics are on, but it's heavy backing track to sync up.
And everything's mixed for radio, so it's very compressed.
Yeah, like they have a big light show, a big smoke show, so it has to be very meticulously timed. Their video wall, you would be all about. It was very, very high quality. Also, there's like 9 of them, so they had 9 individual cameras following them at all times. It was a big old production. But I just had the BBC Sport app up on my phone throughout the entire show, which my partner Laura, God bless her, was willing to let me do, because she was just having the time of her life dancing away while I'm like rocking back and forth. Where did you watch it? What were you like, at a pub, at home? What was the vibe?
I watched it with some neighbours in my front room, and it was really nice. But I think the issue is that like nobody in the room gave a real toss about football, and so I was the only one, and I was willing an England win by drinking can after can of beer, because I was like, if we win this, I'm gonna have to legally, contractually, go absolutely crazy. Probably go to a pub. Probably just wander around the streets with a can in my hand. But so by the end of it, when obviously the end of the final whistle went, I was too inebriated to go to sleep, and just a little bit. I mean, I'm never hacked off with England. I'm never kind of like the entitlement that the people who write the discourse in this country is endless, and as a Scotsman, you must feel that more than most. But the way they talk about England, like they have the God-given divine right to win football matches, is astonishing, and it continues to be astonishing. And the chat around Southgate has been obscene as he leaves.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, so Southgate's England is the first England team that I haven't actively despised. Like, I think they seem like nice enough guys. They don't seem to believe the England myth as much as like the previous teams did. And yeah, I thought the chat on the ramble was very reasonable. Obviously, I tuned in to the post-final ramble with a little bit of a, it's happened again.
Yeah, I mean, I never, there was never a meeting where we sort of sat down and sort of went, right, we're not going to talk as much about Scotland. We're going to be an England-focused show. But the problem is, we're all Englishmen, so it's quite hard to not do that. And especially with Marcus Speller hosting the Ramble, he's a big fan of England. He always has been, and he will defend the fans, the supporters, the team to the hilt. And it's you know what? But a big long England run. Good for download figures. It's been good for our YouTube as well. We've never had any kind of feedback. For 17 years we've been doing that show, and we get the odd email and we'll get the odd tweet, the odd Facebook post, but it's never the torrent of the drive-by YouTube commenters that you get. And now we're starting to get a few more views on YouTube. There are people just reacting to the artwork, the title of the show, and just firing abuse at us. And a lot of I'm kind of used to it because I've been, working on kind of abroad in Japan podcast. I do a lot of YouTube. The insane wrestling fans of Wrestle Me that use the YouTube, that watch the YouTube stuff. And so I'm used to drive-by, insane, not really watching or listening to what anyone has to say kind of comments. But I think the rest of them are a little bit like, oh, why are people being so cruel? It's like, because they're not listening. They're just reading the clickbaity title.
Mate,
it's all part of the game.
You should tell them to write a video game review, and then they'll really know what it's all about.
Exactly.
To just get drive-by abused.
Before the game's even out, before any of them have played it.
Yeah. It was funny, so after the show, we walked through Hyde Park a bit to get to a quieter tube station, and we met England fans coming the other way, and one of them literally went, oh, height spine, as they walked past me, and I was like, this is fantastic. This is
hasn't got the gusto of Glasgow Airport's I hate Iceland
mate,
after the
I quote I hate Iceland all the time. It's one of the best moments ever. But yes, hard lines England.
No. Rough stuff.
We go again. I just saw yesterday that Scotland have dropped 8 places in the national rankings, and honestly, that's kind. It should have been about 800 places.
Enjoy the seeding. The preceding seeding.
Yeah, we'll be down there with the Faroe Islands soon enough. Very briefly, I do have an energy drink. It is a Rockstar Punch Strawberry.
Keeping it simple, but it's not a flavour we get here.
No, it's as you will see, it is nouveau. It's part of the nouveau riche.
Bonjour.
It's actually quite mild in taste. It's not overwhelmingly strawberry, or I might just have a head cold, to be honest. But
they've just put butter in it. You know the French speakers, they just put butter in it.
The shop that I went to get this in, across from the hotel, it's called the Hazy Mart or something like that. It's proper it's a big steel door in front of it. You can't see into the shop. It's all hazed out windows.
Right.
It's a proper dodgy ass place, but they had an amazing selection of energy drinks. So
you are in you're in Ontario, I believe.
I'm in London, Ontario, Canada.
London, Ontario. Do they not have a Canadian? How Londonderry and Derry people get understandably upset about different naming conventions depending on your point of view, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Is there not a Canada London or call it London? I don't know, London. Yeah,
no,
London, Canada.
Yeah, so when we got past the kind of Toronto area, everything was named after Scottish towns. There was a Kirkcaldy and stuff like this. So it's just
awesome.
They're just stealing our culture. I've actually
they did have to do it quite quickly. I think out there they did have to do it quite quickly, and so I understand why they copied. Yeah, but it is brazen, a lot of it, isn't it?
I just googled to see if there's any wrestlers from London, Ontario, because obviously Canada is famous for their wrestlers, but none. No one of note. Which is unfortunate. So I can't go and visit the heart dungeon.
Oh, the Rougeaus. Where do the Rougeaus come from? Well, I'm also drinking an energy drink. I'm drinking Lucozade with a capsule of rehydration tablets because I have been ill all week. Good. Tires you out, doesn't it?
Oh, mate.
Tires you out making your way to Sainsbury's and pretending the only thing you haven't come in for is Imodium. It's just buying the Imodium and then going, all right, I better pick up something else to pretend I've not just come in with my shitty bum for
12 cans.
Imodium.
Yes. Look, it's the height of summer. It's the height of random transmitted diseases. So I've been like
yeah.
low key unwell for about 2 months, but that's because I'm flying all over the place. Like,
Yeah, a lot of
thankfully,
travelling.
VGC Maniacs next week. I will not be recording this podcast from a random hotel room. I will be back in situ. I say that, but I'll get an email tomorrow being like, "We have to take you to Liechtenstein for the Liechtenstein Games Expo. Would you like to come?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, fine, whatever. Sounds good.
Fine.
Have they got any energy drinks?" Anyway, speaking of consoles, we weren't really, but we are now. Would you like to win a PlayStation 5? Our giveaway is still ongoing. All you have to do is head to videogameschronicle.com and search for Win a PS5, where you'll get the full instructions, thanks to our friends at Alaskan Road Truckers. You basically have to review VGC, the video game podcast, on Apple or Spotify, take a screenshot of your review with your username visible, and send it to podcast@videogameschronicle.com with the subject line giveaway. Let me tell you, Pete, a lot of people want a PS5. A lot of people.
Have they gummed up our email box?
Pretty much, and also it's getting to the point where I think Apple and Spotify will think that we are like botting our reviews because there's been so many of them in such a short period of time. But
I got offered a 30 quid Amazon gift voucher to review an oxygen sensor I bought on Amazon, like from a weird Chinese company. Said put your review in, say you enjoyed popping the O2 sensor into your car, and we'll give you a £30. Send us proof, and we'll give you a £30 Amazon gift voucher. I'm yet to hear back, Jordan.
That's
I will
exactly how it
happily
works in video games as well. Every review I put
pay
up, I
all
get a
that, yeah.
30 quid Amazon voucher. How do you
That'll
think
be
I can't afford headphones and I'm still using these Gotham Knights promotional headphones that I got about 2 years ago at this point?
Did you carry them to? You carried them to London, Ontario. Your Gotham Knights.
I've got a portable
headphones.
podcast set up, bro. I've got to do this. When I was telling people last night that I was getting up at 5:30 in the morning to record a podcast, they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "The world doesn't stop. The VGC podcast doesn't stop just because I'm on my jolly."
I didn't realize you were on a jolly. I didn't realize you were in a different time zone. So we could have done this. Actually, we couldn't have done this any later. Ignore what I said. Thank you for doing it at 10:30 my time.
Of course, no, it's fine. Also, people are like, "Oh, do you not get jet lagged?" But I harness the jet lag. I want to stay on the jet lag time because then I can just wake up, do some things, and then at night when everyone's like, "Oh, we'll have some expensive drinks in the bar," and like talk about layoffs, I'll be like, "I'm going to my bed. Thank you very much. See you later now."
And also you sleep about 1 hour a night with all of the energy drink abuse you've done over the years.
Nouveau. I've got
when I used to get jet lag, when I used to go places, I go to Japan quite a lot. I mean, you only get off that kind of jisaboke, time stupidity, the jet lag, in the second week. And I, for the longest time, would get up and I'd be like, right, I'm not going to have any coffee or energy drinks because I can go. Then I'll be able to go to sleep at about 11 o'clock and, get back on a decent, a decent day. But why? But then I've recently sort of discovered just drink lots of energy drinks and you feel absolutely fine. It is the solution to all of our problems. Drink more caffeine.
Exactly. Chris Scullion's still in Japan yet to be arrested. So
yeah. I think he's going to the Akiogara forest to film some stuff. We'll see.
As
They're going to Johnny
out,
Somalium.
As pointed out by friend of the show Jeff Gersman, on the upcoming WWE promotional tour of Japan, they released a statement being like, due to prior filming commitments, Logan Paul will not be taking part.
I bet he isn't. I bet he bloody isn't.
Filming commitments. Speaking of Japan, Pete, we know who Emio is, and it's not Jim Campbell, and it's not you. It is actually, it was actually a teaser for a new Famicom Detective Club. So, a few weeks ago, Nintendo put up this pretty creepy little video of a man with a bag on his head, and they revealed that it's for a new Famicom Detective Club game. These are, you may remember that 2 remakes of the Famicom Detective Club series came out last year, and now they're making a brand new one in Emio, the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club, which is the full name. A student has been A student has been found dead in a chilling fashion, his head covered with a paper bag and an eerie smile face drawn on it. Pete, how do you find a dead student in a non-chilling fashion?
I don't know if you really hated the student. I don't know, or maybe you were involved in the murder. If you happen upon a corpse you've created,
Yeah.
the corpse creator. Why has nobody ever used that name?
That sounds like a proper kind of like
Corpse
WCW
crafter.
90s name. It's like, I'm the corpse creator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think with this series of games, it's one of those kind of series that when they did these redos last year or the year before, everyone pretended they'd been playing them for years and they were really, really beloved.
Yeah.
Were they toss? Rubbish, absolute nonsense. No one had ever heard of it, and
Do
it
you
was a
know
real
who
surprise
had?
that
Do
it
you
was
know
a
who
bit of a success.
legitimately had played it? Chris Scullion. Chris Scullion knew
Really?
who they were, and he's the only one that I would believe with something like that because it's like, okay, this man has literally wrote the book on this shit, so fair.
Even the Satellaview ones, even the satellite broadcast ones, Chris.
I mean,
Come on.
honestly,
Did you have the ROMs for that?
he's got secret little rooms in his house that are filled with God knows what, filled with students found in a chilling fashion. So I would honestly believe him. Do these type of games do anything for you? Because they've never ever for me these kind of like
I think
detective adventures.
I think there's one of those. I think it's very thin. If you sort of look back at over the years, these kind of video games were always around. Even like in the Amiga years, there'd be games like, I don't know, KGB or with Donald Sutherland, and games like that where you just have a screen, a man would pop up and he'd be beautifully drawn, and he'd be talking to you for a bit, and then you'd mooch around a room and then go somewhere else. I don't think even you get that here. I think it's just a series of pictures of people in a room, and you're just talking. It's very much the one that I played. I think the only one I've played from the East wasn't even from the East. Doki Doki Literature Club, and I was like, that obviously subverted everything about what made these sort of things charming. But yeah, I've never understood because I was, I'm a big like graphic adventure fan. And I'll yap on about Nippon Safe Sync and flashback, not flashback, but like Crucial Corps and stuff for ages. But they didn't have enough animation in them. They didn't have enough kind of movement in them. It didn't feel like the craft was there. Obviously, the writing is hugely important. But if you're kind of working off a translated ROM, and back then it would have been a fan translation usually. They don't really sort of tick a lot of boxes for me, but maybe this new one is. It seems to be a bit more of a graphical upgrade to the previous one, but still quite static.
I think it's amazing that Nintendo would just randomly do this. It's very them to in the midst of like arguably their most safe era ever, where they're just like, we develop these games, we finish them, then we release them a year after they're finished. It's Mario, it's Donkey Kong, don't you worry about it, and then just this random remake.
This feels like a weekend job though, Shu. It's a bit of, get the artists on, get some artists on Fiverr, get all the graphics redone, and yeah.
It's being produced by Yoshio Sakamoto, who was the Metroid producer, and Andy, Fearless Leader, points out that the Switch 2 era is probably going to be the last for the NES generation of creators, because Miyamoto is 71, Tezuka's 63, Koji Kondo's 62, Anuma's 61. Like, what? Is retirement a thing in Japan, or do those blokes just work until they fall down? Like,
yeah, these kind of. I mean, I guess they're the only ones who are making enough money to keep going. Do you know what I mean? Like the people who are doing all of their donkey work won't have quite so much a nice time. For them to be sort of still doing it now, when video games have changed so much, it's just astonishing, really.
Yeah, it's like, especially for someone like Miyamoto, where you are not only experiencing this change, this constant change in the industry, essentially from the birth of popular video games. Obviously, there's Nolan Bushnell and all them are still kicking a ball, but like the canonical start of what you would currently consider video games basically is the NES. And not only did you live through this, you're like the Walt Disney of it. Like, it must be really strange.
I mean, for like someone like Sakamoto, obviously he's obviously in his mid-60s and stuff. Like, he kicked off with being a graphic designer on Snoopy and Mario's Bombs Away and Donkey Kong Jr. and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he goes through his career and he's doing Picross. It's Picross?
Picross, I think.
Is it? Or yeah, it will be Japanese, isn't it? Stuff like Game and Mario, Game and Wario, Tomodachi Life. Like these are Metroid. Yeah, a producer on Metroid is probably as graphically advanced as he's ever going to go.
Yeah.
So I can understand why. He gets kind of pigeonholed as like he could probably handle this. But yeah, Miyamoto, the mechanics of gaming has changed so ridiculously, or in 2-3 decades, that I don't know how he stays relevant with such younger staff members who are obviously very hungry to put their own stamp on games.
I wonder. So I used to think that they would go through a real identity crisis when he shuffles off, but he seems to have already put like successors in place, and he very much seems like he's more of a his title for a few years now has been like creative fellow at Nintendo, and it seems to be younger
Nice.
people are making the games. He's just like steering the ship, which I always used to think of it in the same way that I used to think about the WWE, where it's like, okay, there's going to be a real problem when Vince goes. Obviously, as it transpired, he had to be kicked out rather than rather than shuffle off. But yeah, I think that they'll actually be okay. Nintendo's just in like a very kind of comfortable, reliable spot now where they can put something out like this, and you're like, okay, cool, that's fine. New Mario. I was quite surprised to see that the NES World Championship game came out, or it might not be out yet, but the reviews are out. There's a review on VGC from Andy, and he was really excited about this. If you're not familiar, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition is like a speedrunning game where it will be how quickly can you beat the first level of Mario, how quickly can you get the sword in Zelda, all these kind of things. But it has virtually no online leaderboards for like a speedrunning game, and it's just stuff like that where you're like, oh, Nintendo.
Why do you do this to yourselves?
You're so Nintendo. But yeah, I like this MEO. I'm not going to play this, but I like the way this played out. I like the way that they were kind of doing like a teaser with no context is hardly revolutionary marketing, but for Nintendo it's like, what are you going to do next? You're going to do like social integrations next? Come on now.
Yeah. Do the heads kind of how has this been received? Because I imagine it's been slightly because we saw this as being oh my goodness, what a violent departure from their usual kind of fluff, and I imagine people who are quite excited about this are less excited now. Would it be fair to say?
The beards are happy, like the heads are pretty happy about this because it's like it's a new Famicom Detective Club, but it's I think
come on lads and lasses, stop being silly. Come on,
it kind of limits who you're gonna like spread this out to, but we shall see. Pete, congratulations! There's a new RGG game, and it's being announced in September at the Tokyo Game Show. Now, we talked previously about how they said the next game would surprise fans because it's actually a baseball game, but now we know that they're going to reveal it in September. It's probably going to be like a dragon, but I feel like I'm not. Did you ever play the Judgment games? Their little crime spin-off.
Yeah. Very, very briefly, but yeah.
Yeah, I liked those. Obviously, one of the guys involved in it, I think, got done for coke, so he got like stripped out of the game.
That's right. I think he was also the voice of the snowman in Frozen in the Japanese dub.
The snowman.
The snowman. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's probably going to be a new Like a Dragon. I think this is. It's on one hand I'm excited because those games are great. On the other hand, I feel like I just finished Infinite Wealth, but for some reason Japanese devs can just fire these games out at 100 miles an hour. So, what do you think the cadence for a new Like a Dragon should be? Because they're pretty full on, they're pretty long games, and they're pretty kind of like once I've finished one of those, I feel like I have to like play a palate cleanser for a while. I can't just play this other massive thing.
I mean, the charm for Yakuza games are always just their depiction of, areas like Shibuya or the Dotonbori River in Osaka and stuff. But I do sort of think that because of the kind of homogeny of the Japanese high street, your Family Mart, your Mossburger, all of like the big Japanese brands,
Donkey Hote.
And Don Quixote. I just always think with like it's a little easier to build those worlds if they're city based,
Yeah.
because the lampposts all look the same, the shops are all the same. You know, all of these places can be sort of transplanted, and the worlds that you find yourself in are quite, you know, it's almost a little bit like the old Detective Club, in that it's just the same kind of world, but you just put more interesting characters in, and you know, you're just sort of running from one side of the map to the other, and it's fine and it's great. Are they going to push the boat out? No, they're never going to do that, because it makes way too much money. The West has kind of woken up to it, and there's just so much fun to be had. And I just imagine they just sort of go, right, in a room, like one person probably does the world, what the other one person does, you know, mocap and works with the actors and stuff, and then the rest. Dave, you're doing 3 side quests, and then everyone else is doing side quests. Like, it's
Do a side
the
quest where
story
you
looks
have
after
to chase a
itself.
man down the street who's dressed as a massive fish, and then you
Exactly.
have to push him in the
Yeah.
river. Like, see, the thing is, Yakuza games, like the first couple of Yakuza games had silly elements, but it feels like recently they went really hard on the silly
Yeah.
stuff. Like the main character is a comedy character now rather than a serious character, and
Yeah.
I wonder, because they're bringing out the TV show, which stars Kiryu, like it's going to be more seemingly on the theme of the original games, if they
Right.
might try and
Serious
spin
him up,
up
like
something
straight man
like
him up,
that.
straight man him up a little
Yeah,
bit.
but
But you know what, like TV developments, like it would have been in development hell for ages. If they probably would have done it with the last title, to be honest. But yeah, I think I agree. I think the series, or if you are saying that, I do think the series could do with like a straighter main character,
it
because
just needs a little bit.
that's why the subversion is so delicious when he's,
Yeah,
you know, talking to a chicken in a bowling alley and stuff. That's why it's good.
it's like this is. I don't mean it as bad as this, but it's almost Deadpool-y. Like the modern games that is so kind of like, oh, look how wacky we are. Not only are we
Yeah.
wacky, but the main character's wacky. Whereas in the first couple of games, you would juxtapose the wacky stuff with many conversations that were like just dark and kind of like, like a
I
lot of
completely
that
agree.
stuff. And obviously, for whatever reason, in the English version of Yakuza 2, you had Mark Hamill playing Majima, which was really.
No, he does. I guess they probably thought Joker, so just get him in.
This was
to do that, yeah.
well, it was he'd done Joker in the animated series, but he hadn't done it in Arkham yet. But he's just doing Mark Hamill's voice, so it's unbelievably strange.
Lovely.
Yeah, but yes, we'll see that in September. I'm looking forward to playing that. We will take a short break, but just very briefly, happy trails to Brett Jones, one of the original artists on GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, who sadly passed away. GoldenEye designer David Doak shared the news on social media, saying, "R.I.P. Brett Jones, you absolute legend." Jones worked for Rare between 1994 and 2002, and his work can be seen across GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. He was a keen fundraiser, regularly raising money for charities such as Teenage Cancer Trust and others. So happy trails. Sad man, sad stuff. A great generation of guys that will be departing us as we go on. But it's important that when this stuff happens that we actually report on it, because especially guys who the peak of their career, you could say, was generations and generations ago. It was so. I'm sure it has happened, like sadly, for folk like this to kind of shuffle off and it not be recognised. But I think,
Yeah.
I think it's important.
I mean, who could have had more of a stamp on the world from the perspective of video games than that man? Because GoldenEye was it's all anyone talks about ever with video games. It's what an astonishing body of work to leave behind.
To contribute to a game that becomes almost a default for a console that is a Nintendo console is an unbelievable achievement.
Yeah.
So, happy trails, Brett Jones, and we will see you after this. And we are back, Pete Donaldson. It's time to install Call of Duty because it's getting WWE skins. They've announced that 3 WWE superstars are coming to the game, as well as a couple of WWE finishing moves. Now, do you know who they are before I tell you?
I've seen one. I don't
Okay.
know the rest. I've seen Mammy's coming. Mammy is coming.
Rhea Ripley will be in the game. If you were to pick two other WWE superstars, who do you think they would pick as the two remaining?
Current stars Otis.
Tozawa. Okay, that's it.
And Osmo. It's Osmo. Or is it one who could look over a road, over a wall? Is it not Osmo? Is it?
Almost.
Omos. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies to Omos. Very very good artist.
Yeah.
Osmo.
Osmo.
I was thinking of Cosmo. I was thinking of Cosmo and Dibs from You and Me from the 80s. I was on an 80s moment. Sorry.
So when I saw this, I was like, surely John Cena is the Marine. Come on.
Yeah.
But it's not. It is Cody Rhodes, which makes some
Right.
sense because he is the face of everything at the minute.
Yeah.
And Rey Mysterio, who from a cultural perspective, obviously he's one of the most recognizable wrestlers. Like he's a very he's a wrestler that like gets referenced in mainstream culture a lot, but it's just a bit of a strange one. I'm a big fan of this. I'm going to buy these, and I don't really play Call of Duty anymore, but I will buy these.
Yeah, if anything's going to pull me in, it's something like this, I would say. And like, if you to be fair, if you're going to use like someone from that generation who's still kicking a ball, as you would use that vernacular, the Viper,
Randy Orton.
surely.
Yeah.
He ran away. He went AWOL, but
Yeah, I mean, they're putting his punt kick in as like a finisher. So if you sneak up behind a player and press R3, you throw them to the ground and kick their head off, which I think is good.
Right. Okay.
But like,
So all of the finishes like close quarters kind of
Yeah.
like executions basically. Right.
basically,
okay.
if you can sneak up on someone, you press R3 and you do like a canned animation of like something insulting.
Imagine if you're legitimately, there's some skirmishes in like, Eastern Europe in, 5 years' time, and your attending captain spots you doing an RKO on somebody. It's like, what are you fucking doing?
Standing on top of them doing the Randy Orton pose, like. You can do the crossroads. You can do all sorts. Yeah, I think this is funny. Me and Chris will maybe do something with this because it's always weird seeing WWE and like really popular stuff. I know they're at like a peak of popularity at the minute, but every time I see it, I'm like, what are you doing out your box? What are you doing out of my strange little world?
Yeah. It's like kind of like it's very It's like talking to the aforementioned neighbours, Kate, who lives a couple of hours down. She's got a son who really loves WWE. Bought the Cody Rhodes story immediately. He has no frame of reference of Dusty or anyone else. He bought the Cody Rhodes story when WWE deigned to package it up to him, and he's just a Cody man now.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's interesting to see a lad sort of just adopt it anyway. But the man just talking about the Shield. Like, I liked them when they were in the Shield. I was going, I'm just talking to my neighbour who's like like my age, just just mother of three kids, just talking about how much she enjoyed the Shield's work.
I always get
really
that feeling.
And why shouldn't she?
I always get that feeling when I go to shows at the Hydro and it's like sold out, and I'm like, there cannot be this many people that actually watch wrestling. Like, it's incomprehensible, and so many kids wearing like the full Cody gear with like the blonde hair and stuff like that. He's been a real kind of phenomenal. Like, I came up in the exact time to be a massive John Cena fan, and I was like at the start, like I started watching wrestling properly in like 2003, so it was like right when he started. So it's crazy to see that kind of emulated in Cody, especially when I remember Cody debuting in like Legacy. Debuting with like Bob Holly and that terrible tag team, then going into Legacy with Ted DiBiase. Do you know Ted DiBiase Jr. is like in jail now? I'm sure you've covered this. Like,
I think Ted DiBiase was in trouble for some. Was it involved in the donations thing?
Yep.
The whole churchy. Yeah. Okay. Right. Every man has a price.
Exactly. They just need to pawn off the $1 million belt and they'll be fine.
Exactly.
Although I would hope
I bet Virgil could have told us some tales. Honestly.
Yeah, I hope the $1 million belt was buried with Virgil as he requested. But yeah, this is funny. Next up, apparently 82% of American video game players made an in-game purchase in the last year. Now, we all know that I'm a sicko, and I like a little fiddle now and again. I like a little in-game microtransact. Are you a man that does it? You're a man that makes impulsive purchases, but you've never struck me as someone that would do a microtransaction.
No, and I think sometimes the whole kind of if you're using a game store that is like not Steam, I just find dipping out of that and getting your PayPal details in and
Yeah.
stuff. I find it all me overlay's me overlay, and when I finish playing the game, I'll turn it off and you'll see the Windows background if I'm playing on PC. I just find the whole I'm not a big fan of that. On console, have I ever bought anything? No, I don't think I ever have. To be honest, nothing silly. I think the only kind of like I think I won one round of PUBG once and I got a free T-shirt. That's the only microtransaction I've ever made, and it was the transaction of me winning the thing.
Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah, I'm not really someone who sort of dips out. It's very. I know people kind of talk about those kind of galaxy-sized space games where they'll spend like they'll have a job
Eve.
in there and
Yeah.
Eve and they'll have a job in there and they'll work almost in this virtual world and spend 20 grand on a new ship and stuff. It's yeah, it's very, very alien to anything I'm kind of used to. But I mean, I guess 80% of American video game players made a in-game purchase last year. Does that just mean they download a trial game and they buy a they buy the full game? I don't know. Does that, or is that just
I think that's
T-shirts
maybe
and
like I presume that so this covers mobile, so this is probably also like your Candy Crushes, your Simpsons Tapped Out,
right?
stuff like that. I bet the majority of them are like 99 pence, but there's still that thick end of the wedge where people are spending like thousands on these games.
Well, I wonder how much of that. I bet it's like 80% of American video game players. I would say in that 100%, there's probably so many so-called casual kind of Candy Crush guys, and then that makes up 70% of basically gambling games, and then the last 30% is people who would play a AAA title and purchase in there. I suppose I can't imagine AAA titles are quite so high.
This is really this. I can't be reading this right. According to the report, which was published on GI.biz, 62% of adults over the age of 18 played a video game, with millennials comprising 49% and Gen Z at 13%. 13% of Gen Z played a video game? That can't possibly be true.
Which one's Gen Z again? Are Gen Z the young ones?
No, that's Gen Alpha. Gen Z is like 2000, year 2000
Right,
to year
okay.
2005, I think. That can't possibly be correct, can it?
That does seem particularly low, or maybe a spelling
That's like
mistake.
the
But then,
Roblox and Fortnite generation. How can that?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's
Why have they sort of
absolutely
turned their
mad.
back? I mean, that's probably why we're in so much dire need of quality in the space. But maybe it is just a love of the old social medias and that.
That's mad to me. I know that consoles aren't like super popular with Gen Z, but a video game generally, come on now. But yeah, I've got a weird relationship with microtransactions because because I get all my games for free. Hashtag brag. My general rule is I don't have a problem spending up to the price of the game on a game that I really
On
like.
extras, that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, that's nice.
So
I like
like
that.
when FC comes out every year, I load up like they send us like the 150 quid version with like extra DLC shite. So I usually across like a couple of paychecks essentially will load up that amount on FIFA points and then just kind of
Yeah.
stop. But yeah, it's insidious. The basketball games are really bad for it. I spoke about there's a old review of mine on VGC for a basketball game, basically explaining how the 70 quid to get in is like such a base entry level that it expects you to do so much microtransacting in every single phase of the game that it makes it like
Right.
uncomfortable to play if you don't.
What are these kind of? Are these kind of like? Is it just kind of clothes and stuff? What is the
It's
is the
attributes for your
basket?
player. Like
Oh, wow.
you can earn points to make your player better, like glacially slowly if you want to, but it's almost expected that you spend like 40 quid per player to increase them to the highest level, because that's the same
Jeez,
player you use online as you do in your single
right.
player career. Like it's not divorced from each other. It's a proper mess.
Is the kind of like single player? Sorry, like when you go online, like that, where you can just be one particular player. Is that quite popular then? You kind of
That
more
is the
popular than
mode.
FIFA, right?
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Right. I can
in
understand
NBA
that. Then.
that is like that is NBA's NBA has an ultimate team equivalent called My Team, but they also have
Yeah.
like the thing that people play most are when you create your own basketball player and then you
Nice.
level them up to 99 using money and then you go into teams with your friends who have also done the same thing, and you're not going to play with your friend who's not done this, so
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's
there's
like
an
it's
incentive.
It's the peer pressure that you thought ended at the school gates just continues to home as well.
It goes forever.
Yeah.
Interesting stats. Speaking of FC, I played FC 25. I got a
What?
preview build over last weekend, and the 11 versus 11 experience is very much a tighter version of FC 24, but they have introduced a new mode called Rush, which is five-a-side essentially, which is
Okay, yeah.
fantastic news. They've binned off Volta, which was the kind of FIFA Street equivalent that's been in the last couple of series, where you're playing in
Yeah.
cages and Astros and stuff like that. It was a bit shit. I didn't love Volta, but this is just using the 11-a-side mechanics in a five-a-side setting on like a normal. It's a normal grass pitch, but imagine it's just the defending third and the attacking third. There's no middle third.
Oh, sort of halfway. They put the goals on the sides of the pitches rather than the ends.
That's essentially the size.
And they're always hockey goals.
but the idea in the mode is that it will be four human controlled players and an AI goalkeeper, and it's pretty frantic because naturally, like five-a-sides, everyone attacks in a four, and then as soon as one player on the other team breaks the line of defence, it's just one person running forward and four people trying to chase them.
Oh, not at my age, Jordan. I very much hang back these days. I'll just stay. I'll stand by the goal.
Pretend you're playing like a Pirlo role, but you're actually just not moving.
No.
But yeah, I thought this was great, and it's something that I really want to like get a team together to play with, because and EA is clearly aware that in recent years, clubs mode, which is where everyone plays as an individual player, has become massively popular thanks to things like Wayne Rooney has been playing clubs with like H and all these people like.
Oh yeah, it's just like popping TikTok and stuff. Yeah,
playing with like massive YouTubers, like they have their own teams and stuff like that. And they're
if I was a Plymouth fan, he's been so good over the Euros and stuff. If I was a Plymouth fan, I'd be like, can you just get down to some bloody work, please, Wayne? Stop pissing about.
It's amazing because he has always just seemed like the same guy that was like going for fags when he was like 10 years old and going for like bottles of beer and stuff like that. Like I think he's great. But yeah, the popularity of that is the whole you're screaming at your mates, like you win together, you lose together, like that kind of. You're on. It's basically a conduit for you to be in a voice chat with your pals while you play football. And they're trying to replicate that with Rush. Rush mode is across everything, so you can play it in kickoff, you can play it in clubs, you can play it in Ultimate Team. And it's kind of, in the presentation I watched, they were pretty upfront. They were like, Ultimate Team is too competitive. There's no casual aspect. There's no casual way to play Ultimate Team. We want there to be a mode where after you've sweated out in the weekend league, you and your pals you each bring one of your Ultimate Team players and put them together to make like a little team, and then you play for rewards. And it looks like great fun. I want this to be their new esport. Like I want to see teams of four against each other and how they will like work and how they'll work tactically with each other. It's the best change they've made in a long old time. Best thing. Penalties are MLS penalties, so it's a 1v1 versus the keeper.
Smashing. People doing rainbow flicks and stuff.
Exactly. If you do a big reducer, you get a blue card, so you're off for 60 seconds. They've also introduced tactical fouls. So if you press RB and R1 and A, you just grab them round the waist and pull them down.
Oh, what is that in any mode? Presumably not in five-a-side, but presumably just
every
in
mode.
Any mode
They've added it in, like the tackle that Carvajal did against whatever that player was in the Euros, where it was like, you're getting past me, so I'm just grabbing you and I'm taking you down. Or Chiellini's on Saka at the 2021 Euros, where he just grabbed his shirt and went.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like, I mean, it's amazing and depressing, but still amazing. I hate tactical fouls.
So do I, but I've thought for a while that they have to be recreated in the game because it's such a clear point and it's like such a clear part of the kind of footballing experience. But yeah, everything they're saying about FC25, there's a preview on the site and there's a preview on our YouTube and there's like news stories. It's making me excited. So last year was the first FC game, so it was very much like, oh my god, we have to get this out of the door. We have to just file FIFA off of everything, put FC on it, and get it. This seems like the first one where they've had like quite a long time to work on what they want to do, divorced from FIFA.
I remember you were saying that I think you had EFC before anyone that I knew, and you were sort of doing free cams floating around the stadium to see if I think on the camera on the like the big sort of cameras they have, the big
Yeah.
football cameras they use, the big like long kind of aperture camera lenses. They on the reverse of those cameras, it used to have a picture of like a still shot on the viewfinder of Wayne Rooney doing a bicycle kick,
Yep.
his famous bicycle kick, his famous shinner, and you wanted to know whether they'd still had the assets that they had for FIFA, or it had to be sort of removed wholesale. So you're sort of mooching around, seeing if there's any remnants of FIFA code back in there. I mean, I wonder, because I guess it's still EA, I suppose. You can reuse. Obviously, they reused code and stuff, so it must
They
be
still have the
interesting to
full
sort of see how-
license. Like they have,
Yeah.
they have all the major league licenses. Like they are one of the main sponsors of the Premier League, and they are the title spot. Like La Liga now is EA La Liga, so it's like they
Right.
have the full sponsorship. So I'll have to check that again. But yeah, that's a weird remnant of when they were like, okay, we have to make it look like these cameras have something on them. Let's just use that like 140p image of the shinner. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when that comes out on September 20th. Oh, another cool thing they're adding to career mode is like this system where say during the course of this coming season something ridiculous happens and like I don't know. Ten Hag is like flying. He's like top of the league or whatever in January. You can take over career mode starting in January. So and it'll incorporate all the real life results up until then, like all the injuries, all the form, all the transfers.
Why have they never done that before?
I know, like a live kind of start point where the example they used is when Klopp retired. If you wanted to take Liverpool from then to the end of the season to see if you can turn it round and win it, you can do that, like without having to play the preceding months and hope that it ends up exactly how it ended up in real life with transfers and stuff. So
Maybe it's a licensing issue. Maybe sort of copying the Premier League table is, like you know how you can't take a picture of the Eiffel Tower at dark, or you can't sell a picture of the Eiffel Tower anymore because they put some lights on it, and it's not the tower itself that's protected; it's the light configuration. It could be, you can't because
I'll sell you a picture of the Eiffel Tower. I'll get you a good deal on a picture of the Eiffel Tower. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, all right, smashing.
If I'm ever forced to go to France again, I will not be happy. But yeah, I think the Jude Bellingham is the cover star. I think that's the right pick. He is certainly the man of the moment. I think, look, I hate Real Madrid, and obviously I hate England and English people, but Jude Bellingham has aura, as the kids would say. He is a proper like marketable star, like an interesting new marketable star that we've not had in quite a while. So he's a fine pick, but they've done an Ultimate Edition that has Beckham, Zidane, Aitana Bonmati, and Gianluigi Buffon, and it's just players used to look amazing, man. They used to just look unbelievable. I saw a still of you know the penalty that Zidane dinked into Buffon at the World Cup final in 2006. You just look at those two and you're like, my God, like. It's like when you look at old pictures of wrestlers and you're like, these people don't look superhuman. Like now, wrestlers just look like guys, but wrestlers used to look like a different species.
I think guys have caught up. I think like you see muscly men all over the place. So guys have caught up in many ways. But you'll never get people who look so. It's iconic, isn't it? I suppose it's that kind of that presence that you cannot. If you're Zidane and you walk into any room in the world. All eyes are on you. You're like, my God, it's Zidane. Even though, on balance, he probably had not a middling league career, but there's a lot of like naysayers in his fandom that basically say that he wasn't as good as everyone says he was. But like to have that amount of giffage, on behind you, it really does say something.
It's emblematic of an era where the only access you had to footballers was the matches. Like that's all you saw, and he looked beautiful in matches.
You had no idea what went on after he left that square of green.
It just smoking tabs endlessly.
That's why his hair went. Just restricted the blood flow to his head.
Every time I have like a bit of stubble on my hair and I go to play five-a-sides, I'm like, this is the week that I put on Zidane versus Brazil in the 2006 World Cup. My performance.
Zidane.
Yeah,
Zinedine Zidane. Zidane.
that was a weird era because I used to always support the losing team in tournaments. Like I had a France kit that year, and then
Yeah.
in 2010 I had a Holland kit when Spain beat them, and it was a real issue for me when the 2021 Euros happened because I was like, England are winning this. Also, but this time I knew England weren't going to win it because there was just
Because they'd watch some matches.
yeah, true. They'd got too many on the way. It'd be like,
Yeah.
you can't score an overhead kick. You can't score a last minute winner. Like, you can't do all of this
Can't do
and then
pens,
win.
yeah.
It doesn't work for me. Don't worry, English fans, of which there are probably two left, that'll be the last we talk about it until. I mean, the next Euros are in the UK, so I feel like we should do something with that. We should do
Good point, actually.
we should do a show from the middle of a match. See how that goes. Okay, let's get out of town. Before I go, VGC for the chance to win a PS5. Just head to the website and in the search bar put in "win a PS5" with our friends at Alaskan Road Truckers. Once again, the entry requirements are review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, take a screenshot of the review with your username visible, and send it to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. Pete, what are you up to for the rest of the day?
I'm going to speak at the Republican National Convention and tear my shirt off.
Oh, good. Well overdue. Hulk Hogan is a fanny. He doesn't deserve to be listened to. He doesn't deserve to be part of public life. And I hope that. Why is Macho Man dead where he persists? That's all I'm going to say.
I know, right? Why did we lose Ravishing Rick Rude? We still got Hulk lying Hogan.
I feel like most of those guys from the 80s might have questionable politics. So.
Oh yeah, they'd all be hardcore. I mean, most even like the sort of middle of the road ones, massive Republicans. Yeah. Everyone had massive love for The Rock until it was like, oh yeah, no, he is still a Republican.
They all live in Florida. They all get their head bashed in for a living. Like it's going to happen. At least we have good woke wrestlers like CM Punk, the patron saint of VGC, the video game podcast. Yes. For the rest of the day, I'm currently in London, Ontario, to go to TennoCon, the Warframe convention, and there will be content aplenty, including a very special one-on-one podcast with a man who sent me a video, and I'm going to swear because it's the end of the podcast. He sent me a video on my birthday calling me a cunt. So that's what you can expect from your professional voice actors. But you'll see that pretty soon. Thanks for listening
Charles
to the podcast.
Martinet on the VGC podcast.
Honestly, if you gave him a shekel, he'd call you whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You can send any questions, comments, and concerns to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. Follow us on Twitter at Jordan Middler, at Pete Donaldson. We'd like to thank the great Grant Kirkhope for the use of VGC, the video game podcast theme. Next week, I will be back in the proper studio. I will not be in some dingy-ass brown hotel room. I had to very quickly clear my side table before we recorded this because there was just so many cans of drink on it that it looked like I had a problem. It's a lot. It's the travelling lifestyle. Until next time, say goodbye, Pete.
Goodbye.
And we'll see you next time.